welcome to our program.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here. Before we get into science or the advocacy part, I'm going to focus on the parent part. Can you take us back to the moment you sensed maybe something wasn't right with Amara? What that felt like in your gut? Walk us back to that.
Yeah, so Amara began missing her, those early milestones when we took her to the pediatrician. For example, her 3-month milestone, she wasn't rolling to one side. And then at 6 months, she wasn't rolling over all the way. But our pediatrician said that, hey, a lot of kids miss their early milestones. Let's just see what happens at the 9-month and the 1-year mark. Well, for Amara, at around 7 months, she started having what's called infantile spasms, which are these really short seizures. And they're actually quite hard to detect. So she was having them for a little while, and we just thought, God, what is this? There were, her eyes would roll up really quickly and then come back down, or her hand would raise randomly and come back down. And it did take a couple of days, actually, for me to start to say, okay, actually, this is something is off here. Mm-hmm. And then look online and find out that actually, the spasm. And that's when I got that pit in my stomach that, oh God, something could be really wrong here.
You finally get a diagnosis, and I'm wondering, you hear the name of a condition I'm assuming you hadn't heard.
So it's called a transcription factor, and it's just very important. It helps us figure out how to walk, how to talk, how to do a lot of things that we take for granted. As I, gone through this journey, I've realized small things like picking up a cup and bringing it to your mouth. There's so much that's happening in your brain to tell your arm to pick up a glass and bring it to your mouth at the right time. So much happens in the background that we're really unaware of. And, the human body is so fascinating. So for our children, that gene has a variant, a mutation in it. It could be a gap in the gene. It could be a letter that's switched. Something is wrong with the gene. And because it's such an important gene, even a small variation causes a really large, downstream impact.
How did this show up in Amara's case? You just mentioned these infantile spasms. How did it show up in daily life from that point?
Yeah, these conditions are a spectrum. And for Amara, the way it shows up for her is she has seizures. So we're really battling with seizure management. She, thank God, was able to walk, but she has very low muscle tone. So she walks and she needs a little help. She has feet braces on, for example. Her low muscle tone shows up in that it's hard for her to digest food. So even though now she's close to 10 years old, she still really digests food like a baby. So she's constantly having constipation and other GI problems. The most impactful thing for us, though, is that she cannot speak. So we've tried different communication avenues. She uses an iPad to point at different things when she wants them, like blueberries or toast, etc. Right. But this lack of speech is really quite devastating. And then she's highly cognitively delayed. So I would say her brain really functions at about a 2-year-old level, even though she's got a body of a 10-year-old.
So many people assume that a diagnosis like this comes with like a roadmap. There are certain conditions, if someone gets diagnosed with cancer, I know this from my own world, or something with neurological conditions, then XYZ happens. But this is a rare condition. What did you learn about how the healthcare system handles something like FOXG1? Not common, they're rare, in terms of the playbook. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, that was really eye-opening for me, that even if you're seeing an excellent doctor, an excellent neurologist at one of the best academic centers in the world, the truth is, if you have a rare condition, and in FOXG1's case, we only know of about 600 children in the United States with this condition. So It's super ultra rare. Wow. Your doctor may have seen just a handful of patients. And all of these conditions, they have a spectrum. So it's really difficult to even say that any two children are alike. And that makes it even more complicated. So there really is no roadmap. And that was a very difficult part for me to absorb. I had assumed in my layman's world that okay, my doctor, there's probably a database they go
Right.
into and they'll see all other FOXG1 kids in the United States and know what's happening with them. And that's just not the case. Our medical system is very fragmented and there is no plan. So your neurologist will help you as far as they can, but also these conditions affect so many different organs and so many different issues. So every one doctor is only going to be an expert in their area. And it's really parent that has to now start maneuvering the system and the academic system and everything on your own. And there really is no roadmap. And this is where families coming together and advocacy is so critical, especially for rare diseases, because we truly need each other. We need to collect data from each other to really build that roadmap for what is the trajectory of the disease and what are the best next steps that we should do as parents.
So at what point, Nasha, did the question shift from what do we do now to what can we build? That turning point, because that's the incredible part of your story is that you end up actually well, as we'll get to in a moment, like, advocating and then actually getting to a place where you're creating a therapy. How did that change? What sparked it?
Yeah, so, first for me personally, I had to get through my grief. And I personally did that by sitting in a dark closet, truly, and letting the grief truly wash into me and out of me. And I had to go through that first. And that
Right.
did take me about 3 to 6 months to really just, be somewhat at ease that this is the situation that I have on my hands. The next thing that happened for me is, I'm an entrepreneur. I've started companies in the past and I like to solve problems. So I began reading different medical journals, PubMed articles, just trying to learn everything I could about the gene. I was lucky that at this time I happened to meet someone who ran a small biotech company. And he sat down with me and really explained gene therapy. I hadn't heard of gene therapy. I didn't know what that was. And he told me that, look, FOXG1 is what's called a monogenic condition. So it's a single gene that's affected. And therefore, we know the target, what has to be fixed. And there is something called gene therapy where you can fix that gene. So there's hope. And for someone like me that's an entrepreneur, all I need to know is that, hey, there's a possibility.
Right.
So that was really a clarifying moment for me to take the next step of drug. The next step was, okay, I need to create some models, animal models, cell models, just to test different drugs to see, can we even modulate the gene, right? Can we increase protein level? If we add an extra copy, could something happen? So we kind of went step by step by step. And as we started going down the path to a cure, as we called it, we realized more and more that, hey, right now, there's not going to be a pharmaceutical company that comes to rescue us. Even if we de-risk the program, if we do certain steps, we're not seeing a pharmaceutical savior. So then we decided, okay, let's just keep going. Let's take the next step. Let's take the next step. And because we were cash constrained, right? We were
Right.
resource constrained. We had to be innovative. And because of that, we actually created an entire really innovative new way to do drug development for small diseases. And now, right, like 9 years into this journey, it's crazy to think that we will be the first patient foundation to really sponsor and run our own multi-site global clinical trial for a gene replacement therapy. But I never would have thought that day one. It's sort of just step by step by step. And it's also the team, right? If you have a great vision and your heart is into it and you're doing good work, you're going to attract people who want to be with you. So other parents, other people in industry, they joined our team, and it's really with this team that we've been able to now do something really substantial and monumental for our children. But it is a step-by-step thing, and you just have to, day in and day out, have the courage. I'm going to get up today and do the best I can. And the urgency is natural because you have your child in front
Right.
of you
Right.
that is deteriorating, right? And so you feel you feel the urgency in a way that you've never felt it for anything else in your life.
In our last moment, Nasha, I want you to answer this for listeners who want to support families that are facing rare conditions or advocate for better science and care in their own communities. What's one meaningful action that a listener can take starting today?
So I will say that rare diseases, especially ultra rare diseases, are completely non-funded by the government and by pharma. So they only get cured because of philanthropy. So if you're a listener and you really want to support, find one rare disease that you believe in that is connected to you in some way and make some part of your philanthropic portfolio for that rare disease, because they will only find a cure because of your support. And that is the one thing that you could really do to help rare disease families.
Nasha, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time today. And I hope you come back when we hear about what's going on in the clinical trial itself.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we're starting trials this year, and I'll be really happy and excited to share positive news.